Thank you and good morning. My name is Eric Windheim. Today, we're going to be talking about a building biology EMF assessment. By way of introduction, I am a fully certified EMRS, Electromagnetic Radiation Specialist, BBEC, Building Biology Environmental Consultant, and a graduate of the IEEE accredited Radio Frequency Safety Officer course. I'm also the founder of Sacramento Smart Meter Awareness, where back in 2013, we led our utility to see the error of their ways and allow us to keep the analog meter and get rid of the smart meter. So let's see here. I want to go to the next slide. Okay, so what is building biology? It didn't make a lot of sense to me when I first heard it, but when I looked into it, it's a focus on human health in the built environment. So we are based in and on science, and we use nature as the gold standard and model. So I want to let everybody know, all of you wonderful fellows that have put in so much time, effort, and financial donation, as a courtesy to you, I'm going to invite you to fill out the contact form on my website so that we can have a private discussion about your questions, so that you can help others. And there's a lot of information here, so I suggest you take notes as we go through and even review the presentation at a later time. But this is for you. I want to help enable you in everything that you're doing through Children's Health Defense. So building biology. Actually, we're house doctors. That's kind of the simple thing. Building Biology Institute is the world's foremost organization for training building biologists. It is a relationship between health and living space. It's based on hard, real science, physics, chemistry, biology, geology, architecture. And we use nature as our model and example. And the Institute has been around for decades. It started in Germany, and it came to the United States in 1987. So our mission is much like yours. This is our 33rd year here in the USA, and is to help create healthy homes, schools, workplaces that are free of indoor air, water, chemical hazard. And most interestingly, electromagnetic radiation is probably the fastest growing toxin out there. So we fulfill our mission by guiding the general public, working professionals such as yourself, architects, builders, engineers, interior designers, physicians, nurses, governors, big Silicon Valley companies. And we're founded in Clearwater, Florida, but now we're based in, we do all of our training at our institute location in Hendersonville, North Carolina. So when you go through the training, for my training in particular, it was a total of 5 one-week on-site courses. So you get to know your colleagues pretty well, and you go through the rest of your life with them. It's kind of like we have a lot of peers. We compare notes. We're very helpful to each other because we're all learning. So we have weekly and monthly Zoom sessions, focus groups on air, mold, solar, dirty electricity, new instrumentation, how to write better, shorter, more concise reports, new buildings. And we're required to take continuing education units to maintain our certification. One of those is you could be selected to be a lab leader to go back and assist the instructors, help the students, and that's a lot of fun, actually. So this is our way of life. We enjoy constant learning and helping others, and the rewards are priceless. So those are my certifications. I completed them in 2015. Over on the right is a CEU from the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers. It's called the Radio Frequency Safety Officer course. It's a course about the doctrine, dogma, and policies of the FCC, and how the only way you can be harmed by wireless radiation is heat. Well, I went there to learn all that on the inside, and it was just totally fascinating. And I can see why so many public people are totally brainwashed. So that's me. I'm an expert at inspection, detection, measurement, and exposure reduction. And I've had all kinds of people that I've advised. And I'm very proficient in the use of testing equipment, recording the data, and presenting it in a manner that people can easily understand. So my work today, here's a summary. It started in 2013, where we negotiated our utility, our electric utility, to allow the opt-out and return of the analog meter. So this is my 9th year as a fully certified professional, although I did start as an amateur in 2008. I've had over 5,000 initial phone consultations at no charge, and 1,000 of those resulted in on-site EMF assessments for homes, real estate, raw land, buildings, etc., in 12 states around the United States. And I've got 300 or more referrals from medical doctors and health professionals because I first did their home and they saw such a huge improvement. They say, this can really help my clients. I've supervised and managed over 100 wiring code violation repair projects that reduces magnetic fields and electric fields. I've worked with 7 different electricians, and I've been training one for 5 years. And I've created over 500 low EMF sleeping sanctuaries. And that's probably the most important thing we can do when we visit a house. So what are EMFs? Well, EMF is a catch-all word. It's an acronym that could mean electromagnetic fields, electromagnetic force, but really there's 4 kinds, but all EMFs have something in common. All electrical devices create and emit electromagnetic fields. And electricity has only been here since 1885 when Edison started distributing it. So all electromagnetic fields have a frequency or vibration rate that's measured in cycles. So this is an picture is an actual electromagnetic field. And you see there's peaks. That's a wavelength, just like waves down at the beach. And the rate at which those wavelengths vibrate is called frequency or cycles or hertz per second. So we look at this diagram here, and over on the left we have DC. That means direct current. There is no alternating current cycle. Then we have regular 60 cycle ELF, magnetic and electric fields. Then we get into the dirty electricity range, the AM radio range. So as the frequency increases on the wire, it starts to fly off the wire as a radio transmission, AM, FM, TV, cell towers, Wi-Fi, microwaves. So the faster the vibration, the more information you can transmit in a second. Now this here is the visible light spectrum, and up here is a nuclear spectrum that is always destructive to cells. In this area down here, it's not destructive instantly like nuclear radiation, but long-term exposure to this level of EMF does cause pain, suffering, injury, and even death. So the EMFs of concern that we're going to be talking about today are electric fields, magnetic fields, wireless radiation, also known as RF, and dirty electricity known as DE. So let's take a look at electric fields. They are considered extremely low frequency ELF EMF. So on the right side, we see a big transmission line, and there's 250,000 volts up there. The electric field radiates off of those power lines, and it seeks out a pathway to low voltage, which is the earth. Now, if you're standing on the earth, just like this guy is down here, well, guess what? He's more conductive than the air because he's 70% water, he's salty, and he's mineralized. So he's a lightning rod. Please notice that there's 3 different electric field rays concentrating on him. He's very attractive and very well connected. And if you stood underneath a power line like this, you may have seen the hair stand up on your head or on your arm. That's a warning sign to get away. So the common sources are power lines, household wiring, like the wires that run all the way around the bed in your bedroom that actually suppress melatonin, reduce the quality of your sleep. and reduce your ability to repair and stop free radical quenching by melatonin. We'll talk about that. Cords and chargers, lamps and lighting, electric blankets, really bad, and anything you plug into a wall socket that is ungrounded, which means it doesn't have a three-prong plug. So what is a magnetic field? Well, it's a component of the electromagnetic wave, as we found back here. It's a component, it always goes along with it. And when electricity goes through a conductive material like a wire, it creates a circular loop around it. You might have seen a boat going across a lake. It leaves a wake behind it. So when electricity moves through a wire, it makes a current and then a field around it. And here's a man on the right standing next to a power tower. You can't shield from this because this goes right through the core of the earth, goes right through buildings. You have to move away. That's the only solution for a magnetic field from a power line. But there's a lot of interior sources. And the good news is you have control over those and you can solve those. Faulty wiring, illegal grounding or bonding, electric appliance motors like washer, dryer, refrigerator. You want to be at least 5 feet from those. An electric stove or oven, man, you want to make sure your pillow end of your bed isn't on the other side of the wall from that. Transformers, doorbell, furnace, or maybe even an out of balance utility transformer sitting in your front yard or on a pole. A current on metal pipes, water or gas, that's quite common. We see electrified water pipes, electrified gas pipes, hair dryers, electric blankets, or the old-fashioned knob and tube wiring. So what about dirty electricity? Exactly what is that? Well, it's actually known in the electrical engineering field as an HFVT, high frequency voltage transient, or MEP, microsurge electrical pollution. This can include the common electrical engineering harmonics of up to 3,100 hertz, but it is a sudden departure from the normal 60 cycle sine wave, and the normal range for dirty electricity is 2,000 to 100,000 hertz or cycles per second. Now, when you put that kind of frequency on a wire, it radiates off the wire as low frequency RF, and you can easily detect this with a properly tuned AM radio. And your cells certainly feel that as well. So what are the sources of dirty electricity? Well, dimmer switches, they're required by law here in California. CFL bulbs, LED bulbs, they're required by law here in California. Variable speed motors for pool, well, HVAC, or mini splits, once again, they're required by law here in California. In their infinite wisdom, yeah, they can save a little bit of electricity, but what about the health damage to the people? Solar inverters, solar battery storage, like the Tesla Powerwall, is one of the most toxic things I've seen out there. How do I know? Because when I go out there in the garage and turn it off, people go, oh my gosh, the pressure in my head just stopped. So let me turn it back on. Oh, it's back. So they say, why did I spend $20,000 on that battery? Well, it sounded good at the time, but now you're feeling the results. Battery chargers, computers, induction stovetops, you know, those stoves that just heat the pot, stay away from them. And almost every electrical device that's energy efficient creates dirty electricity, sadly. So how do we measure dirty electricity? Well, the best simple low-cost way is to use the Stetzer meter. It's a $140 meter. It's been used in many peer-reviewed reports. You plug it in and it gives you a number. Anything over 100 is extreme. Ideal is 25 or less. So I use that. Also, I use an oscilloscope and a spectrum analyzer. So this is an actual shot at a kitchen table where I'm talking to a client. I'm showing them, first of all, the blue 60 cycle sine wave itself is corrupted. It's not smooth, it's not sinusoidal, it has a lot of variations. And then this red stuff, that's the dirty electricity. This is the scope view and this is the spectrum analyzer view. So we have huge pulses at 20,000, 33,000, 54,000, and about 93,000 cycles per second. This helps us understand what we're doing with. It's like putting your house on an EKG machine. You know how the cardiologist looks at the rhythm and beat of your heart? We're looking at the kind of a toxin that's on your wires. So this here was taken inside the dispatch room of a police department. And the reason they had me in the dispatch room is there's a lot of cancer outbreak here in this room. Nowhere else in the whole department, just the people that work here. And they can't figure it out. Well, they had the mold guy come through. They had the chemical guy come through. And then they wanted, well, let's check out EMF. Well, we found out that this is one of the most toxic 10 locations I've seen in my 9 years. They have frequencies at 14, 26, 40, and 51,000 cycles per second, rather than 60 cycles. The amplitude of the dirty electricity is 5.178 volts. So we tried some filters. Well, we can reduce it. We reduced the amplitude down to 1.482 volts, but that wasn't enough. It's still really toxic. So the solution, much to the chagrin of the IT manager, we located the source. It was the uninterruptible battery backup power supplies for dozens of computers in this building. And I asked him why he chose these. He said, because these are the best ones possible to ensure that the computers last as long as they can. I said, well, I think it's directly related to your cancer. Oh my gosh. So at this point, they didn't want to talk to me anymore. But from what I heard is they did replace all the battery backup supplies for about 1/10 of the cost of trying to filter it. So what about wireless radiation? Everybody loves it. Chat, TikTok, Facebook, you name it. If people have their phone no further away than the end of their arm, it's literally the new package of cigarettes because it's always within 3 feet of you, in your hand or in your pocket. It's called point-to-point communication without wires. It's pulsed and digitized. And there's a lot of other sources: cell phone, cell tower, earbud, cordless phone, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, laptops, smart meters, and all the smart appliances that communicate with the smart meter. I was just up in Boise, Idaho 2 weeks ago. This is a large apartment complex. Boy, I really pity the people that are sleeping right near this. There's so many innocent looking things out here, like baby monitors, Apple Watch. Over here, these are some cell towers in Elk Grove, California, near one of my clients. It destroyed the quality of her sleep so much that she got terminated from her job as a public school teacher. That's right. So how do we detect it? Well, we have a variety of professional instrumentation. The 2 top ones here, this is an HF 59B with a directional antenna, so you can sweep back and forth to find the object. And when you're in a house, you've got to sniff out maybe 30 of these devices. This kind of antenna is omnidirectional. It measures everything from all directions. This little one here, it's one of my favorites. This is the Safe and Sound Pro. It's extremely durable. It measures up to 10 gigs. And I just got this one 2 days ago. This is the new Safe and Sound Pro 5G. It's amazing. And it's absolutely interesting to put it on your dashboard and drive around town. You'll know where all the 5G towers are because this thing will start sounding off for you. So if you're interested in that, talk to me later and I can even show you how to get a discount on that. Okay, so what is data logging of RF radiation? Well, it's one thing to just take a spot measurement at a second in time, but a data log is like a seismograph chart. We all know what a seismograph chart looks like. This is the measurement of an earthquake. Everything is calm, the earthquake starts, it gets violent, and then it simmers down. Okay, so an RF data log is the same thing. It measures amplitude and power over time. So you can see what's really going on with the cell tower, which that image is, and it does change minute by minute. So to measure 5G, we have a variety of instruments. This is my first 5G meter. It's actually a spectrum analyzer. It's very precise. It's really expensive too. It's not nearly as convenient or low cost as this one here. So people say, Eric, how did you get started in this? Well, it's really interesting. I saw the decline in my parents' health over a period of time. And I said, I can't understand what's going on. They're not doing anything wrong. And then when I finally assessed their home, when I got trained and certified, I said, oh my gosh, all this EMF exposure was easily preventable. So I measured the dirty electricity, magnetic fields, and electric fields, and it was 3 to 250 times over the extreme concern range. That's my mom there. So what caused their EMF toxins? Magnetic fields. Dad did his own wiring to save some money. Electric fields. Dad used electric blankets to reduce the heating bill. Dirty electricity. Dad had me put in 52 compact fluorescent light bulbs, you know, those spiral ones that are full of mercury, to reduce the electric bill. So, you know, I felt sick that I was part of the problem here. So instead of, you know, he saved maybe a couple $1,000 on electricity over a 15-year period of time. But look at the cost of this sick care, $250,000 for early, painful, premature departure, stroke, stage 4 cancer, dementia, neuropathy. All of this was preventable. So what's really interesting, as soon as we got them out of the house, because they totally collapsed, they recovered rapidly. Mom's cancer tumor shrunk in size and number, according to the radiologist and the oncologist, but she did die of heart complications. Dad's peripheral neuropathy almost went away completely, but his dementia remained. He died of neurological problems because he couldn't swallow. So this really shook me to the core, and it set me on a new path. And my next lesson was provided to me by my electric utility, SMUD, Sacramento Municipal Utility District, the 6th largest municipal utility in the United States. So in 2010, right after my mom died, they sent me this brochure, Smart Meters. Your meter is ready for an upgrade. Sounds pretty good, right? And so I started to do a little research, and I found out, oh no, these smart meters are causing a lot of horrendous and unexplainable health problems. So I found out more and more about it, and I said, no, I'm not going to let them put one on my house. So I started speaking at SMUD board meetings 97 times total. The woman on the right was one of the people injured by smart meters. She is retired. Her name is Diane, and she was training to be a marathon runner when the smart meter was put on her kitchen wall. And in a very short period of time, she couldn't hold a spoon in her hand. She had trouble with memory. And she has to wear this full body radiation suit, socks, gloves, head net, everything, to be able to venture outside of her own house, including the SMUD boardroom where everybody has cell phones and Wi-Fi. So my own board director said, we know you're sincere, but we don't believe you. We would never do anything to harm you. Okay, that was their refrain. So I had the pleasure of meeting Rosa Parrick, a child that survived World War II. She suffered under Nazis, Cossacks, communists, and her public statement to the board was, nobody ever hurt me more than you did. And you can see her in the movie Take Back Your Power, the 2013 edition. It's on YouTube. And that's me introducing her to the board. They mocked her. She had 25 smart meters on her bedroom wall. So we started looking at this. You know, the SMUD board didn't give a whit about dozens of people that came in with sworn declarations of harm and injury suitable for testimony in court. So I looked at their brochure and I said, you know, I think we got something here. They say, are smart meters safe? Yes, period. That's very definitive. And here's how they say that. It's the same power as a cell phone. It transmits only once every 4 hours, that's 6 per day, and they're only 50 milliseconds long. Okay, this is a publication, and it's about safety, and they say, yes, it is safe. Now, by the way, years later, I learned how to use data logging. These are actual smart meter transmissions inside my own home from the smart meter next door. Now, here on the left, each one of these spikes is 5 seconds apart. That's 703 per hour, not 6 per day. It's 700 per hour. And when you look at a 24-hour period, you can see there's thousands. So, you know, SMUD, let's compare what they said. Their brochure said Only 6 transmissions a day. Well, we found official written testimony that SMUD had tested it for 13,000. The peak power, they said, is the same as a cell phone. No, 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 no. They tested my cell phone and a smart meter within 1 minute of each other, and the report that came back clearly shows the smart meter is 240 times more powerful. And then instead of the stated published statement of 50 milliseconds, their report shows 1,450. So are they incompetent, deceptive, fraudulent? What would a third grader say about this? So I figured, okay, you know what? As an elected and sworn public official, they have to obey the law. They cannot articulate verbally or publish anything to their constituents that is knowingly false. Otherwise, there's financial fines and even jail time. So I printed up each one of their oaths of office that I got by Public Records Act request. And then I made up a letter called Notice of Right of Self-Defense and Demand to Cease and Desist. I served it on them through the mail. I served it on them on the record at the meeting. And I simply said, because so many people are hurt and you either seem you're totally naive or you're deceptive, self-defense in the face of imminent grave bodily injury is a God-given right protected by law and the Constitution for the United States of America. Well, we won, and we kept our analog meters. And this was a nationwide first for public utilities. So afterwards, a very grateful person who got the smart meter removed made this little artwork, and I just felt, gee, I'm glad. I'm glad I was able to do this. It was very scary. It was not pleasant, but I'm glad we came out on the other side. So, you know, when the truth is on your side, you don't need to let up. You're going to win sooner or later because you're standing on the truth and the other guy is standing on a lie. So after that, we started public education program. And, you know, a lot of the injured people that showed up at the board meetings, we all became best friends, some of the best, wonderful people I've met in my whole life. So we went all over Sacramento doing public events, tens of thousands of brochures. We met hundreds of other victims. But all in all, the only people that were paying attention were the ones that were already hurt. Nobody else cared. So it was a lot of time, effort, and money. So I had to rethink my strategy. Okay, so I was an activist and I had success, or should I be a professional house doctor? Because I started to hear something about building biology and how they could make me into a professional. So I started checking it out. And some of the most important principles are, you have to verify that the site is safe and free from EMF. So you can't get well, much less stay well, in a sick house. So there's actually several, more than just 4, but the main EMFs are electric fields, magnetic fields, wireless radiation, dirty electricity, and then there's even DC magnetic fields created by magnetized springs and steel bed frames. Now they can cause discomfort, impairment, injury, sickness, and death, and sadly, I've seen all of those in my clients. So I want to ask you about, see that woman up there? She's obviously not comfortable. Do you know anybody who feels better when they're away from the house and worse when they get back to it? Yes? No? Okay. They should have a professional EMF home assessment to see if there's something that we can simply turn off to help them feel better. And so I have an initial questionnaire when someone wants to have an assessment. I help them become comfortable with what I'm going to do. I ask them, are you symptomatic? Yes or no? What are your symptoms? Quality of sleep? Do you feel better away? And quite a few interesting phone questions on the phone. I give them an estimate and set a date. And I insist that both partners and or the husband and wife be there, because if one of them's missing, that's the person who's going to say, I don't understand, so I can't say yes or no, so we're not going to do anything. So I just simply don't go unless all the important people are there. Otherwise, I'm just taking their money and they're going to be very disappointed. And if they need additional information, I'll send them information like this and say, do you have any of these symptoms? And they go, yeah, but we're not near a cell tower. Right, but you told me the Wi-Fi is directly underneath your son's bed. That's a little indoor cell tower. And they go, oh, really? So yeah, we help them discover things and come to a point of action. The quality of sleep is super important. The guy on the left is marinated in electric fields, magnetic fields, dirty electricity, wireless radiation. It's no wonder he's wide awake. So when we create a sleep sanctuary, the lights go out with the push button remote because the sleep switch turns off all the circuits. His melatonin level goes up, his free radicals are quenched and reduced, and he wakes up feeling like a fully charged battery, ready to go. So what is the actual purpose and protocol? Okay, we have a training protocol to detect, measure, record, with the focus on areas where people spend time, bedrooms and kitchen, summary of findings to review with the client, assign a risk level and correlate that to peer-reviewed studies, then propose and effectuate solutions, proven solutions, free, low cost, moderate cost, good, better, best, and just suggest that we do it in stages. And then after that, verify that reduction of exposure is less. So this is an actual data intake sheet I did on an assessment. The gentleman said, "Oh man, I've got so many magnetic fields. I don't even need an assessment. I know who you are. Just bring your EMF electrician and start fixing it." And it was horrible. Obviously, a handyman had done an awful lot of twiddling with his electrical system. So this column here is for magnetic fields. This one is for electric fields. So this is all beds: pillow, waist, and foot, pillow, waist, and foot, pillow, waist, and foot. This is the front yard. That's the ambient level, 0.36 milligauss. That's lower, slight concern. This is the beds. Everything is above 5. So that's extreme concern. You definitely cannot stay healthy at this level for very long. It's correlated to a lot of very, very serious and sometimes non-reversible health conditions. But by the end of the day, we found all the wiring code violations and got him down below the no concern level of 0.2. This guy was happy as a clam at high tide because he was going to move out. And then the beds, the electric field, that suppresses melatonin release. So we're in a severe or extreme, and we reduced almost all beds into the no concern, except for that one, lower slight concern. And then this is the same view again, but with him, he said, "Look, I don't need a report. I got a problem. Can you fix it?" Yeah, we can start fixing it on the first day. But in reality, it took a little longer. I mean, I don't know if I have that written down on a slide here. It took 1 day with me, 2 days with the electrician. So when we take measurements, we come up with a risk assessment. According to Building Biology SBM 2015 precautionary guidelines, which is based on thousands of independently funded peer-reviewed reports. So no concern means nobody needs to bother about anything. It's safe for everybody, and there's no correction needed. Slight concern means, yeah, it's okay for healthy adults, but not for infants, elderly, or sick or sensitive, and you should fix it. Severe, it's totally unacceptable. Corrections needed for everybody as soon as possible. And extreme concern means avoid the exposure now. Take correction ASAP, because the rate of injury exceeds the rate of repair. So this is on the left, this is the Building Biology Precautionary Guideline for all 4 EMFs, or all 3 EMFs. On the right is the EuroPAM guidelines, and it's even more restrictive. Now, it's interesting that Europe and Eastern European countries are far more concerned about EMF exposure than the United States. Part of that can be explained in a 1975 Defense Intelligence paper that says, if the United States adopts stringent EMF levels like Europe and Eastern European countries have, it will have a definite negative effect on commerce and the military. Oh my gosh, that's so important. But what about the people? What about the children? So one of the other tools I use for helping people understand where they're at is we have these charts. And over here on the left-hand side, I said, you know what, you're at about 30,000 microwatts. So everything below that is correlated to your power level. Infertility in mice after 5 generations, decreased cognitive and well-being. And then we have an even more expanded chart here on the right, much more detail. So what I'll do is I'll circle their power level and say, this is where you are, okay, for wireless radiation, for magnetic fields. Notice that this is correlated to miscarriage, cancer, ADD, autism, leukemia. Sometimes the man will say, I don't believe a single thing you're telling my wife. I said, you don't have to. Just believe these peer-reviewed studies. I'm here to report and you decide. I report, you decide. We'll leave as friends. You can call me back anytime you want. And that totally disarms him. So the solutions are educate, like you're doing through all of your outreach and wonderful videos. And I've been looking at your site for years. It's always something interesting on there. Remove toxic devices, replace with non-toxic, reposition. See, just by moving the Wi-Fi out from underneath your child's bed and putting it out in the garage, it's a huge improvement. So distance is your friend, just like with firecrackers, hand grenades, and nuclear bombs. Eventually, there's a safe distance. Now, the sun is an unshielded nuclear reactor, but it's 93 million miles away. Okay, so reduce usage, find alternatives, repair wire code violations, filtering or shielding. Everybody gravitates to that, but if you do 1 through 6 properly, you may not need to filter or shield. Now, sometimes if you have an external threat like a power line or a cell tower, you're going to have to move. There's no two ways about it. It may be unpleasant, but this is the only solution. You got to get out of harm's way. And then you should remeasure, verify, follow up with the client, make sure that they understand that how everything's working. And I hear some wonderful stories about big improvements in their health. So the client that had the electrical problem, yeah, he spent about $5,000 total, but he said it's the best money we ever invested. We were going to sell and move out. Now, thankfully, you fixed our house and got rid of the magnetic field so we can stay. So let's look at the time on site. Me and the electrician, one day. And it took 5 hours round trip to get to this location. So day 2 and 3, the electrician on his own. So, cha-ching, that's a lot of money. But look at it this way. It's far less than the regrettable medical damage and cost or of selling the house. It's the best option. And he got to stay, and he was so happy that he could stay in his house. Okay, there's so many common, more and more every day, and I didn't put the picture in, but the source I saw that is really funny is the iPotty. It's a plastic, multicolored plastic toilet training seat for children. It's got a built-in iPad, Train up a young man in the way he shall go, and when he becomes old, he will not depart from it. So what about sources? Well, the middle picture, that's living rooms, and it's really a war zone. There's so many entertainment devices that are all connected wirelessly. On the left, cars use radar to say, hey, there's somebody to your left, there's somebody to your right, or you're too close to the car in front. And of course, Teslas use radar. And then even inside the lower left corner, you got Bluetooth, you got Wi-Fi blasting you. So a lot of people hire me to find out where those things are in the car and disable them. And then, of course, there's the wonderful cell tower in Elk Grove, California. So what about 5G? Well, people think it's kind of like a death ray. Well, not really. Here's one thing about 5G. The waves won't penetrate a wall or a window, but 5G is like Domino's pizza. They only deliver to people that order. So if you're standing in a crowd of people and 1 or 2 people has a 5G phone, there's going to be a focused beam headed towards them. And there's going to be collateral impact. 2 or 3 people around them is also going to be in the beam. So my advice is stay away from those people that have 5G phones, or you may have a very high power focused beam headed your way. Then it might hit you right in the eye. So these photos here on the right, this is the wonderful Verizon 5G 28 gigahertz installation, 220 feet from where I'm sitting right now. But my meter, my Safe and Sound Pro 5G meter, it indicates that there's nothing. Nothing to be coming into my house at all. It's picking up some background noise of cell towers, but you can probably see the readout screen. 0.5 microwatts per meter squared of 5G radiation. So the millimeter wave 5G is disappointing. It won't go through trees, it won't go through windows, it won't go through walls. And actually, in order to receive it, you got to put up your own antenna on top of your roof. But out there on the sidewalk, you can get hit in the face with it. So that's the little Safe and Sound Pro. It's really a dandy little unit. And I've seen a lot of them. This is the handiest, most accurate one I've seen out there. So for internal sources, you have total control. Once we detect and locate them, you can remove, replace, relocate, reduce usage, create sleep sanctuaries. And this is where we run into habits. People say, no, I need my cell phone. No, you don't. You're just used to it. No, I need my Wi-Fi. No, you don't. I run all my business off of wired telephones, wired phones, and I very seldom use my cell phone. I wait till I get back to the office. So if you're going to build your own house, you might as well employ an experienced building biologist. We actually have a new certification, Building Biology New Build. And you can incorporate materials into your house that stops radiation cold, so that even if somebody puts a tower up next to your house, you're protected. Another sad thing I see in homes is they got the Wi-Fi set up. They got the streaming TV set up. But the photo on the right is what we call a communication cabinet. It's in many modern homes. It has all the Ethernet, all the coaxial cables, all the HDMI cables, all the phone cables, and this costs $4,000 or $5,000 to install in the house. Why aren't they using it? And why are they using wireless radiation again? Because the cable vendor, AT&T, Comcast, Cox, or whoever, they don't want to spend time hooking up to those wires. They just say, pretty much these days, everybody wants Wi-Fi. So they turn on Wi-Fi, that radiation permeates the whole house, and voila, everything is connected. But I have a network and cabling expert who learned in the military and has got over 30 years of experience. And he goes out to houses and hooks all this up and or installs new cabling if they don't have it. And people feel better immediately when they get rid of all that baseline RF radiation. You can even hook up your phone to the Ethernet and turn off the wireless radiation. And you'll still get all your call, text, video. It's a choice. You don't have to expose yourself. And that's the tough thing, because people have these habits. They love their phone, just like a pet mouse. So roof shielding. Okay, this is a job in Arlington, Virginia, overlooking the Potomac River. The people on the top floor were screaming bloody murder because there was 12 to 20 cell towers on the roof. And the board of directors of this condo association made a private illegal contract with AT&T and T-Mobile and didn't let the homeowners vote. So I get called in. The homeowners are going to sue the board. And what I found out is, you know what? There's a happy solution. You need a new roof, okay? And this is your one and only golden opportunity to put down some shielding. Yeah, it's going to cost $100 grand. But you know what? This shielding is going to prevent you, each and every one of you, from getting sued for an illegal act and an illegal contract with these cell phone companies. So they took off the old roof, they put this down, problem solved. Sometimes we just need to shield a room, like on the left. That is a Faraday cage, and that's actually what I did for one of the families that Children's Self-Defense is relating to right now. We do window shielding, wall shielding, floor shielding. The one on the right was done for a pregnant mom. There's a huge cell tower about 1.5 blocks away. So we brought indoor radiation levels down from 6,000 or 7,000 microwatts per meter squared down to 100 microwatts per meter squared. Cars. You know, some people, they can't even drive up and down the freeway because all the cell phone usage from other cars nearby, all the radar from other cars in the other lane, all the cell towers, all the radar from airports. They can't even, you know, go 5 miles without feeling Wi-Fi from the houses on both sides of the street. So this Volkswagen Eurovan, we put a window shielding on, and we got a 98.7% reduction. Well, they got so comfortable, they decided to go all the way from California to New York State and back. They enjoyed their lives again. They got their life back. I was so happy about that. Of course, the smart meter. You want to get, this is the only kind of meter that's proven to be safe. Don't listen to these people that say, well, it's a digital meter, or it's not really a smart meter, it's an AMR meter. Hey, the real one has dials and gears. That's analog, like a wind-up wristwatch. That's what you want. So here are smart meter radiation diverters. Now, we prefer to direct the radiation away from you. If you put something on there that caps it off, the radiation is going to bounce back. It's going to get inducted onto your wiring. And it's always better to aim it away, kind of like a cannon barrel, rather than have it bounce back in your face, which is like shining a flashlight into the bathroom mirror. So as you can see, this is very, very low tech, low cost, but it is highly effective. So sadly, some of my clients have become so injured and so traumatized that even for weeks and months and years after the traumatizing event, they have to wear some sort of RF shielding everywhere they go. And it's very restrictive and embarrassing. And it doesn't get rid of the pain and suffering completely, but it can be necessary to wear this kind of clothing. Now, if you want bed canopies, first of all, don't go out and buy one. This is the second most popular thing. People say, well, I got a bed canopy, and I still hurt. Right, because that's not the solution you need. Well, the salesman sounded pretty convincing. Of course, he's got an inventory of these things. Look, the protocol is detect, measure, assign a risk level, propose and effectuate solutions based on what's found. What you did is you were hoping this was a solution without any diagnosis, okay? Not even your doctor does that. He says, come in first and I want to examine you before I give you any kind of prescription. If you're going to get a canopy, don't get the cheap ones. They're not worth it. You'll end up getting a better one anyway. So once again, about magnetic and electric fields, on the left, the lamp is off, but the cord is in. So you're having an electric field. Now, when the lamp is on, you've got an electric field, plus you've got a magnetic field. This is the kind of meter we use for measuring that. We've seen this before, but we're going to revisit some of this now. So the picture on the left, that's an external power line. You can't solve that. Time to hit the road and move out. You cannot have you cannot reduce that. And the utility is not going to oblige you by tuning down the voltage or the current. No way. Now, the one on the right, that shows a neutral to ground connection here, and that causes electric current on gas lines, water line, building steel. That's just one of the 4 basic code violations out there. You can fix that. Good news. Now, if you document it, you can get a reduction in the resale cost of a house. I want to talk to you about a few clients. This is really, really important. A 42-year-old female worked at California EPA. She moved into a 110-year house, very close to a power line, got sick, retired early, homebound, constant exposure, became wheelchair bound, ended up bed bound, really sick, hopeless, scheduled assisted suicide in Switzerland. Her family went along with it. She took one final vacation up to coastal California redwoods and recovered. Wow. Then when she moved back home again, she's sick. Then she hired me, and she realized the utility wasn't going to do anything. So she moved away to Portola Valley. After 2 years, she recovered about 80%. So this is a heat map of the weather. You've seen those before. We do heat maps of the bed. This is the pillow, waist, and foot. Up here at the pillow, we got over 7 milligauss, waist 6.8, foot, okay, and anything over 5 is extreme. And by the way, this is with all the lights in the house are off, okay? This is all coming from the power line, period. So then this is the electric field. We measure that too. So this is the house as found with all the circuit breakers on. So what I went down to the main power panel and turned off the circuit breaker. So there's no electricity in the house except what's radiating down from the power line. So even then, they're in the upper severe concern range. They just bought a house too close to the power line. And then I did a data log that measures magnetic field power fluctuation over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. So most of the time, the pillow of her bed is in the extreme concern range. About 2 or 3 in the morning, it drops down into the upper severe. So what are these huge spikes? Go up here to 20 milligauss, 16 milligauss. Well, guess what? They had internal wiring code violations, and when they turned on certain light switches or left them on when they went to bed, that produced 5 times as much magnetic field hazard on the pillow end of the bed. And they got, oh my God, so we got wiring code violations? You sure do. And what does all this EMF do to you during sleep? Well, the top diagram shows the normal circadian rhythm and release of melatonin. The bottom diagram shows people that are exposed to EMF. Very, very little, if any, melatonin. And there's so many references from the AMA about melatonin being an oncostatic agent, being your master antioxidant rest and repair hormone. It's so important that even doctors prescribe it to cancer patients because they know it has an oncostatic effect, quote. So these magnetic fields in a house, 85% are caused by wiring code violations. And the other 15% is, hey, you just got the pillow of your bed too close to the washer, the dryer, the refrigerator. Just move the bed to the other side of the room. That's the free solution. And there are definite codes of the National Electric Code. These are law. These are not debatable. They're not open to interpretation. There's a right way and a wrong way to wire a house. So on the left, almost 21 milligauss on the floor where the PhD woman sat, the one that almost committed suicide. So I went into the house and I said, okay, wow, here's a circuit, and it's got 4.6 amps of net current. A balanced circuit should have 0.0. So I said, no, you've got a lot of wiring code violations. So we opened up a junction box and I go, holy smoke, this looks like 10 pounds of worms in a 5-pound can. And it actually violates a code that says you cannot fill a box because an electrician will take an hour carefully unpacking that before he can get to access any of the splices. So we found one handyman, do-it-yourself repair after another through the whole house. I want to talk to you about Lori, on disability, poor sleep, fatigue, headache, stress, agitation, you name it, lots of doctor visits, lots of expenses, no solutions. Finally, she said, what the heck, I'm going to try EMF. So she looks me up. We talked for a little while. I explained what I'm going to do. She said, come on. So this is the kitchen. This is the island. Here's the sink. Here's the counter up against the wall. And I said, Lori, why are you sitting over there? I said, I feel better over here. I see. Okay. Well, you've got double, triple, double the extreme concern range. You've got a wiring code violation. And I think it's at the light switch right here on the wall. I said, could it be that simple? Well, look, can't promise you anything, but we'll come back with the EMF electrician. And in the first 20 minutes, we opened up the light switch and the electric plug combo. They had a light switch and a plug outlet, 2 separate circuits with all of the neutrals combined. That's a violation of National Electric Code 300.3b that says all conductors of the same circuit have to be contained within the same raceway, gutter, cable tray, cable bus, trench. So we unhooked these and she goes, oh my gosh, what did you do? Just like that, instantly. I said, well, ma'am, we just found and fixed a wiring code violation. And suddenly what was double and triple the extreme concern range is now at or below the no concern range. And she was just so happy. And this is one of the things I really enjoy. She said it was an instant transformation. She never felt well in the room until Eric fixed it. And she'd been struggling for 14 years. And every time she walked into the house, she had this feeling of dread and depression for 14 years. Okay, so real estate pre-purchase inspections. You don't want to buy a problem property. Before you buy, rent, or build, hire an experienced EMRS professional to assess the property. External problems are a deal breaker. Time to walk away. Internal problems, they're fixable at a cost. And if you do some documentation, you may get a sizable discount, okay? So this is a measurement I took. This client was a cancer survivor. And she bought this $3 million, 5,000 square foot house up in Lake Tahoe. And she says, I want you to check it out. So I said, well, you've got almost 9 milligauss here at waist level in the hallway. And it gets much higher down on the floor. And she goes, what does that mean? Well, this is correlated to cancer, even if you don't already have cancer, according to peer-reviewed reports. So I got into the house, crawled around for a couple hours, and I found out the way they wired the house, they're using the gas line as an electrical conductor. That's right. Electricity is going through the gas pipes back to the electric panel. Definite no-no. Gas and electricity are not a good combination. And that's a violation of code 250.24A5. Okay, so then I said, oh, and there's more. Some of the electrical circuit cables have got an amp and a half, an amp 0.4 of current on there. That's a violation too. And she goes, what am I gonna do? I love this house. Don't worry, this is fixable. Huh, really? Yeah, absolutely. So what I did is who has this training? Regular home inspectors don't. Very few municipal inspectors. Only we do. Certified Electromagnetic Radiation Specialists. We're specially trained to do that. So I wrote up a little report, a simple report. And it was just like photo and code citation, photo and code citation. And I said, estimated cost to repair, $5,000. It took less than a minute for the real estate person says, oh my God, yeah, right. Hey, how about I'll give you a $5,000 discount just to keep moving forward. Agreed? No problem, okay? So they actually got an EMF electrician to fix it for about $3,500. The client is happy. She's been living there 3 years. Her annual cancer checkup shows that she is still cancer-free. Happy as a clam at high tide. Okay, so and this is interesting. Here's some famous doctors. I'm not going to mention any names, but they said, we had one of our really bright relatives, who's also an electrician, wire this house. So it's got to be good. I'm sure. Fine. But let me check it for you anyway. All right. So I am in the master bathroom, 27 milligauss on the toilet. Now, these people are past their childbearing years, but what if it's a young mom and she's starting to carry and gestate her first first child? This level is definitely correlated to a huge increase in miscarriage, to say nothing of ADD, autism, childhood leukemia, and all the other stuff that happens to people starting around 2 or 3 or 4 milligauss. Okay? So just because I actually find some doctors and engineers are the most arrogant. This is the toilet of the EPA victim, 34 milligauss. Oh my gosh, this person was so delightful, pleasant, but she was being beaten down by EMF. So once again, I said, now, here are the measurements I took. Here are the peer-reviewed studies. You know, you're at this level or that level, but let's take a look here. What are the governing forces? What does the government say? Well, the FCC relies upon the International Commission of Non-Ionizing Radiation, ICNIRP, and they also rely upon the Institute for Electrical and Electronic Engineers. So down here at 0.2 milligauss, no concern. 0.2 to 1, slight. 1 to 5, severe. Up to 5, extreme. So ICNIRP says, oh, 2,000 milligauss is A-OK. And the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, oh, no, 9,000 milligauss is A-OK. So there's obviously a huge dichotomy. So for creating a sleep sanctuary, you want to get rid of all the electricity, battery clocks, turn off any and all circuits that are within 10 or 15 feet of the bedroom, eliminate or shield RF, use beds that don't have metal, make sure there's no elevated magnetic fields. And this, I tell you what, it even gets unbelieving husbands who are grouching around to say, you know what, this is great. I'm glad I decided to do this for my wife. They take now it's their idea. When the husband starts sleeping better, they're going to do what you tell them that is going to be good for them. So the people rave about their sleep. They tell others. And once again, that's the difference between a sleep, a hellish sleep, and a delightful sleep. And we have a remote control UL listed device where you push a button and it disengages all of the circuits that are related to your bedroom. You can do it right from the comfort of your bed. So we're getting down to the end here. And I want to let you know, why do we still have these huge, high hazardous exposure levels? It's pretty simple. The governing authorities like the FCC, which is the Federal Communication Agency, they're a captured agency. Now, Norm Allister from the Center of Ethics at Harvard University wrote this book. See, the wireless industry actually controls the FCC through campaign donations, persistent lobbying, and in past years, the chairman and the head of the FCC was none other than chief legal counsel for Verizon. So this is clearly a case of the fox guarding the hen house. And your own senators and representatives, they've got stock in these companies. Are they going to bite the hand that feeds them? I don't think so. They're compromised. And that's the problem with the United States. So many people are for sale. ICNIRP. It's really a private club. The new members are voted in by outgoing members. It's self-perpetuating, self-promoting German non-governmental organization, and it's not accountable for any actions at all. Nobody controls it, nobody supervises it, nobody checks it for conflicts of interest, and nobody even checks to see if what they say is scientifically accurate, according to this doctor highlighted in the lower left. So this is like the madman running the asylum. It's totally wrong, but it's actually governing law. So how do we change this? Well, dedicated organizations like Children's Health Defense, they're putting up a very valiant effort and getting results. We need more continued professional activism, more lawsuits, EMF-aware attorneys and judges. We need to continue to document the truth about EMF harm and avoidance. And we need continued financial support and hardworking people like you. Remember, when you're standing on the truth, you will win sooner or later, because falsehood disappears in the bright light of truth. So once again, I want to let all the fellows know that I'm offering you a complimentary phone consultation. So to get the most out of that, review this presentation, write down your notes, create short, simple questions, and please use my contact form. Instead of giving me an essay to read and comprehend, just ask me a question. What about this? What about that, etc. So you can call me or you can wait for my call. Your questions are important, and I want to really thank you for what you do and providing me the opportunity to bring this information to you. So we're going to start having some questions in just a minute, but I want to ask you this. Who are you going to trust? And what is at stake? You know, politicians, government, and industry, they say there's no problem. There's nothing to worry about here. But people that have been injured and thousands of independent scientists, oh yeah, no, it's very real. It's very real. I want to let you know that an on-site EMF assessment starts at about $300. And you can learn what your exposure risk is, get effective solutions, learn how to use technology. Thank you for attending. And in the future, if you want a specialized segment on one part of EMF detection or abatement, we can have something on electric fields, magnetic fields, wireless radiation, dirty electricity. whatever you'd want. So let Faria or Miriam know, and we can do this again sometime if you'd like. And so that concludes my presentation. Thank you so